G'day, and welcome back to another episode. It is your boy, the captain of the ship, the man in charge. My parents call me Bradley J. Dryburgh, but you can call me Brad, you can call me whatever you like, because if you're a fan of the show, I'm a fan of you. And we're pumped to be here. The birds are chirping, which means we're in for a really good time, and I'm excited to dive into today's discussion because ultimately health and fitness and creating a really healthy lifestyle is something that we all need to think about. And whilst your body, your image, and the way you live your life is definitely a choice of yours and yours alone, there's something to be said for a physical pursuit that I think just levels you up in every area of your life, not just that pursuit itself, but the way that you think mentally, your relationships, your spiritual relationship with your body and your mind. And so that's why I'm so keen to get into this today. It really does relate to every single one of you. And today's guest has a lot to share. Her journey over the course of the last 12 months has been incredible. And we're going to dive straight into it with the reason for a change, the motivation, the discipline, and all the challenges and triumphs that come in and around that, and in and around just being someone in this age group, as we call it, the 20s. And I think you're just before your 20s.
Yeah, I'm yet to kind of make it there, but 2 months to go and I'll hit 2-0.
Pretty much. We're getting you early, but it's good. So ladies and gentlemen, from your home, your car, or wherever you are, get ready because we've got a lot to talk about. And welcome, Miss Emma Reynolds. How are we?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm so glad you're here. This is actually Emma's podcast debut, but I definitely don't believe it will be the last. Like I said, your journey's been amazing.
Thank you. I need you to teach me how to talk as well as you do because that was bloody amazing.
You're too kind. I guess
Freestyle.
You do this a couple of times and you'd like to think you kind of get used to it.
Yeah, far out.
But no, I'm really excited to have you here. I think I've just watched your journey. Like, we both live, for everyone who's listening to this or watching, Emma and I are both Illawarra locals. And it's always amazing. A good Diggy's morning.
A good ice long black.
What a place to be. What a coffee to have. I'm definitely down there. I think that's where I started seeing you a lot, was just walking along the track.
Your marathon journey when you started training for that is when we kind of crossed paths a little bit.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I think everyone seems to cross paths on similar journeys, and whilst mine is definitely not stepping on stage to look good.
And mine's definitely not running a marathon.
Yeah, it kind of crosses paths though, because like I said, it's that physical excellence, that pursuit of getting the best out of you physically. And I remember seeing your stuff for the first time, and I think I can kind of remember passing you before, and I was like, wow, she's made incredible changes, not just physically, but what looked like mentally, and such a lifestyle change to be at where you're at now. I really want to go back and I guess firstly address the fact that we are talking about a bikini prep, and I'll call it bikini domination on stage. You've done amazing.
Thank you. I'm very proud of the physical and mental growth that I've gone through to even step on stage. I can't believe I did it, to be honest.
I couldn't do it. Like, personally for me, I don't have the nutritional discipline and I probably don't have the love for being in the gym, and I guess some people think running's monotonous. Like, for me, the weights get a little bit monotonous at times.
Yeah, it's not for everyone. You need to find something you love. And I found a love for the gym. Your love is marathons, running.
Love-hate relationship,
to me, that's crazy.
Hey.
I could not think of anything worse.
But see, it's the funny thing, like you said it, the mental transformation you've been through to achieve that, you probably did never expect yourself to be in the position you are. I definitely didn't. But ultimately, when you set your sights on a goal, it just happens.
You do anything to reach that goal.
I'm really keen to dive in and I guess destruct the reason for wanting to go on this journey, because I guess my mantra throughout 2020 and throughout my marathon prep was purpose fuels progress. And I felt like I was really aligned to the reason I was running the marathon.
Yeah.
It wasn't just for the sake of it. And ultimately, that's probably what led to my discipline, which was almost faultless. And really, outside of bleeding in the lungs and having to take 2 weeks off and a tear in my calf.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I remember messaging you actually and being
like... Well, that was the only time I stopped.
Yeah.
Before then, it was never like, oh, maybe I won't train today or maybe I won't do this.
You do it. You do the motions.
You just do it. And I think that comes from purpose. So let's talk about your reasoning.
Well, probably May last year, May 2020 was my turning point. So started COVID. No, coming out of COVID, my partner, had just moved down to South Australia, and I was unhappy. I was unhappy with how I was feeling myself. I wasn't feeling myself. So I needed change, and I just started from there. I started slowly, so I reached out to my good friend and coach, Bree, and we just went from there. Small changes weekly, and grew.
At what point in time, because like for me, I made my journey to push myself after like a month of running, but it was because of, I guess, bad health and a tricky situation that really spurred that motivation super early. But at what point, like obviously you'd been in the gym before this, and like you're familiar with the gym and training, but ultimately it's almost like a different thing in itself where you start seeking the advice of a coach, which I did at the beginning of mine. You create that relationship and you start to go on that journey. And at what point does, I guess, the switch flip where you go, this is actually something I want to do at a competitive level. This is something I feel like I can do really well at. Because it's one thing to step on stage and kind of just be on stage, but you've done it very well.
Thank you.
So it's a very conscious decision.
So I've always lived an active lifestyle. Growing up as a kid, I was in every sport going, and I was competitive at it too. So I kind of lost that at around 16.
I think we all do.
Yeah, you get to that age and you just kind of, I don't want to do that anymore. You just want to hang out with your friends and that's about it. So did that, lived my life for a few years. Sounds weird because I was only 16, 17 when I was doing that, but you know, life. And so Bree helped me get back into the gym, find my love for the gym again and working out and feeling good about myself. It was probably about July, August. I wrote a list of things I've always wanted to do in my phone, and step on stage was one of them. And it finally felt achievable in a way. And I have a memory of me being in year 9, and you know Lauren Simpson?
I do, yes.
World champ. My bikini, very similar to hers. I had that as my screensaver in year 9, her world champ picture in that silver bikini.
So it's funny you say Lauren, because one of Lauren's marketing crew was Star, who was here yesterday.
Who I also look up to heavily,
So I noticed when you'd said, how did it go with Star? I was like, obviously you kind of knew who she was, but I thought it might have just been through social, but there you go, I connect the dots now.
So Lauren has always been an inspiration for me. So I've still got that list on my phone of goals that I want to achieve, and stepping on stage has always been something I'd watched people do and admired, but never thought I could actually do it until August, and then that's when we kind of said, all right, let's do it. April, let's go.
That's amazing.
So
there's a few things I want to talk about there. So the first being that we spoke about this just off camera and off the mics before we got into the pod here, but it's one thing to like really push yourself physically when that is your life. Like the life of an athlete is a sole focus on pursuing that goal and moving in the direction that you need to achieve it. Ultimately, you've done that, but with a whole heap of other responsibility on your shoulders. You live by yourself, if I'm correct. Like you're 19, going into your 20s now. Your partner Blake has moved to South Australia. Then you work a really physically demanding job, which starts quite early in the morning from what I see. And like the process of just being disciplined while all of that is happening is, I take my hat off to you, because that would be really hard to do. Talk about just like the stresses of your everyday life that go in balance with just the training as well.
So I think I kind of use the gym as an outlet in a way. So prep gave me something to focus on, something to kind of give me drive to help me through keeping busy, although I didn't need to. But so work, so I started at 7, so I was in the gym at 3:30 every morning to get my session in.
Oh my God.
And then I'd go back of an afternoon and do cardio. And
what time do you crash at night?
Oh, I'm asleep by 8 p.m. every night.
Okay, I can imagine.
So like gets to Friday night and I'm in bed ready for sleep.
So what's that? Do you get about 7 hours?
Yeah, 7 to 8. I usually push 8, to be honest.
That's amazing. Like, still
I
to
love
be able
my
to
sleep.
do that. See, I'm terrible with that. I've really noticed that this year. Like, I feel like I've got some black bags forming under my eyes because I've been lazy with sleep.
We were talking about this before. Screen time. Read before bed.
I've got to get better at this. See,
10 pages.
10 pages.
15 minutes. Do it.
Yeah, I like that. See, because I was in a bit of a flow for a minute where I'd like, my morning routine was run, swim, ice long black with the gang.
I'm so jealous of your morning routine.
Then I'd get a coffee, come back home, make my brekkie, peanut butter and poached eggs.
Add the sunrise video in there too.
Yeah, little sunrise vid and on the IG stories. And then I'd read for a little bit while I had brekkie. But I've just fallen out of that routine because ultimately, like, mornings are busy. So when you want to do all that, and then, like, you can't do everything. You've got to pick a few things. And I like getting out and exercising. So I think getting off my phone a little bit and getting into bed, book in hand. And I've had so many people. So I started posting on my story that I've started reading. Mm. And you don't know the amount of people who have bought me books or sent me books here to the studio.
Or the amount of people that give you feedback on books they've read.
And the list just grows.
Genuinely ask you about your opinions on books. So it's got a little community that you don't even realise. I
feel like I've got to own the reading of the books a little more.
Yeah. Well, the idea of your new podcast came from a book club.
It did. A book/intervention club, which you'll hear a whole lot about actually before this releases, because this will be part of the new branding. So, which is exciting. But I'm sure you've heard all about that by now. And I want to dive a little bit more into that goals list.
Yeah.
Like, how important do you think it is for everyday individuals, human beings, everyone who listens and watches this podcast to really have goals? I think it's so underrated as someone in the early stages of your life. It's almost like, in many ways, goals are reserved for school. Then you sort of leave school and it's like, oh, you forget about it and you just go through the general flow of life until you're old, that you start to freak out and you create a bucket list and a heap of goals that you're supposed to have ticked off in your life.
So goals are a massive thing for me, but I only really stick to small, achievable goals. Keep them small, keep them close. Because you set big goals, you lose momentum halfway through if you're not getting there fast enough. You're only human. Yeah. So my thing is setting small goals that ultimately lead to a bigger goal along the way. So
I like that. I think that's really important.
That I've kind of gone well in the past year, because I have set those small goals along the way, even weekly ones. Like reading before bed, I want to do that 7 nights in a row.
Well, it's forming great habits, isn't it?
Yeah.
One thing that I noticed, actually, before we got here today, I was looking at a little TikTok scroll. We'll scroll on the TikTok.
Love a good TikTok.
So good. And I actually come across a little Joe Rogan clip.
Yep.
And he was talking in this clip about, I guess, fulfilling the life that you really want to live. And he quoted an old philosopher, Henry David Thoreau. And the quote was, most men lead lives of quiet desperation. And I thought that was a really interesting quote. And basically what it means is that most people hit that stage of their life where responsibilities, bills, commitments,
adult life.
It's just that adult life. And this is literally what the pod's about now. Like those commitments and stresses and expectations that come in your 20s that just weigh you down, and you've almost got this quiet sense of desperation inside of you that just yearns for like the opportunity to chase the goals and the dreams that you've always had.
Yeah.
And I think those little goals are a really great way of counteracting that and getting you out of that stuck mindset.
It keeps you accountable as well.
It really does. And for me, like, I feel like you talk about that period at sort of 16 of just really flowing through life and living life and sort of missing that direction, that competitive direction of sport. For me, I was so similar, where I had a career pursuit in real estate for so many years, but ultimately it almost felt like it weighed me down and stopped me from doing anything else or nurturing any other area of my life. And the last year has been about rediscovering that for me. And that's a really exciting journey.
Yeah.
Because you feel free. You feel like a weight lifted off your shoulders. And I describe the feeling of handing in my notice at work and being like so emotional, which I wasn't an emotional work character.
Yeah,
I'm a pretty emotional guy, I reckon.
My emotions have definitely come out the past few months. I feel like I'm a lot more in touch with myself and my emotions. It's crazy.
I think that's important, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately for me, it was a very freeing feeling, getting the opportunity to pursue all of that again. So when you talk about goals and we talk about purpose, and I'm big on purpose, and I feel like I really understand my purpose. I heard a guy that I've just like a bit of a man crush on at the moment, Ben Crow, who's just a great character as far as mindset goes, and he spoke about understanding the clear distinction between purpose and goals.
Yep.
And a purpose is something that you likely never achieve. It's something you're always in pursuit of.
You're striving. Yeah,
you're striving all the time for that purpose, and it can shift and adjust, but ultimately the goals that you set are measurable and have a time set on those goals, and that should lead to you being in pursuit of that purpose.
Yep.
So I ask, and I don't think it's as easy as often everyone should know and everyone should remember, and I think it changes, but do you feel that you have a purpose? Well, you definitely do, but do you feel like you know what it is?
I feel like I have a purpose. I'm yet to discover my purpose.
Which I think is fun. I think that's really fun. I think that's the importance of goals, and I probably misunderstood purpose for a long time, where I thought my purpose was to be what I thought my biggest goals really are.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been stripping that back, and I think it's so much harder to figure out than most people give credit for.
And it's also finding yourself too.
It really is, and that just comes through experimentation.
Yep.
And I feel like I don't even know if you really figure it out that much. I feel like you think you know, and I probably feel like I know at this point in time, but it may change.
Changes weekly.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, honestly. Like, I think I know my purpose, but whether that is...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for work now, you do industrial aircon and refrigeration, correct?
I'm a fourth year apprentice, so industrial aircon and refrigeration.
What got you into that?
If I'm honest, I was 16. I needed an outlet out of school. School wasn't for me. I was interested in being a sparky, and I got told that I needed to go back to school to year 12 just for the maths side of things. And I turned around and said no. Yeah, I get that. Going back to school. And then I got offered aircon refrigeration, and I straight away said, I'll take it. And 4 years later now, I don't regret that decision one bit.
You're such a go-getter, and you can see that you're really someone who... Do you struggle to sit down?
Oh my God, I can't stop moving. Have you seen?
Yeah, there's you strike me as that kind of person who needs the physical outlet consistently, and such a physical job to then couple with the training. But ultimately, do you feel like that's something you want to do for the rest of your life, or can you see yourself pursuing fitness wholeheartedly, or would that take away from the love?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm finding my purpose at the moment, and I'm still trying to find myself. I thoroughly love my job and everything about it, but I am currently studying sports nutrition with Sports Nutrition Australia. How
many hours in the day do you have?
Not enough.
You've discovered... I was going to say, you've discovered something that I haven't yet.
Yeah, so I wish there was more, but...
Yeah,
so trying to cram all that in, but never going to say... what's the saying? Never going to say never?
Yeah,
is that the right,
that's the right way.
But yeah, definitely something down the lines.
Talk to me about your little, community that's followed you and come around you and supported you throughout this period of really hustling, because you've created correct me if I'm wrong here.
I've met so many wonderful women and men.
Yeah.
I've made so many friends.
Even on social, your little community's grown just crazy.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I've connected with so many like-minded people. It is crazy. Yeah. And the people that have reached out and said that I've helped them from just posting something little here and there that I kind of do as second nature now. It's crazy, and I never even thought about it that I could help people.
Well, I think you're doing an amazing job of it, and I said in the beginning of this podcast, in the intro, that fitness and health is something that should be a part of everyone's life.
I strongly agree, whether it's in the tiniest amount.
Yeah, it's just something, I feel like something to, naturally you want to be the healthiest version of yourself, and you want to pursue your health and look after your body. It's something that is so underrated, and only people who do it really appreciate the power of it.
And you yourself coming from a hospital bed to a week later running a marathon,
it makes you just feel
so
blessed.
Grateful.
Incredibly grateful and blessed to be able to be active, to be physical. And I know the good that it's done in my life, not just over the course of last year, but throughout my childhood and my teenage years. I was very similar to you, quite competitive in all the sport that I played. But ultimately, like, it's one of those things that when it's a big part of everyone's day, I feel like we overcomplicate it at times.
It needs to be simple. If you can only do a 15-minute walk, you're getting your body moving, you're keeping your mind active, put your phone away, chuck a podcast on.
100%. 100%. Talk to me about, like, what a week in your gym life looks like.
So, prep life or now?
Let's go prep life, and then let's talk about now.
The two.
Yeah.
So towards the end of prep, it's pretty crazy, as everyone kind of talks about. So I'd wake 3:34, wake up. I'd get to the gym. I'd do my strength training, so upper body, lower body, glutes.
Yeah.
Kind of. I train 5 days a week strength, and still do to this day. 5 works for me, and then I'd go to work at. I aim to be there for 6:45, 15 minutes early everywhere, always. You
were very early today, and I'm notorious for being a couple minutes late.
Yeah,
so I was lucky I got here on time.
It's alright, I don't mind waiting in the car. And work till 3:34 unless there's overtime, love some OT.
I can imagine.
Head back to the gym for the hour on the Stairmaster.
Oh, the Stairmaster is brutal too. It's the worst one to probably spend an hour on.
But best friends for a couple months there.
Yeah, I can imagine. What is it? Is it monotonous after time?
I would just chuck on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then it kind of became my me time. I'd then switch off and I'd just kind of watch YouTube, not really think about much.
It's funny you say that, because a few people have said to me, like, when I run, I can't run with music. I've tried to run with music once, and it feels like when I have music. It feels like I'm going to have a fucking heart attack. Like, my heart starts moving to the beat of the music. Like, it's weird. I don't feel right. But I was, like, for a long time, in a period of, like, every Wednesday morning I do, like, a half marathon or a 20K.
Just casual.
Yeah, and, like, eventually it does, which is funny. Like, it's so funny to think that. But, like, in that 2 hours or that hour 40 of running, people go, oh, do you listen to music? And I'm like, nah, like, it's such a nice, peaceful time. It's almost like, in some way, meditation for me.
Yeah.
Because it's really, like, it's really 2 hours out of the week that I get where I'm not on my phone, not around other people, not performing a task that requires real mental attention.
Yeah.
It's a real release.
And you enjoy it as well.
Yeah, and I think it's such a nice thing to have that. And I think that's why I think training is so important for mental health too.
Oh, it's changed my mental...
Let's talk about that a little bit. Like, what are the changes you feel mentally, like being so dedicated to something physically now?
Definitely finding something I love has changed my mental health dramatically.
Yeah.
For instance, May last year, you couldn't get me out of bed some days. Like, we're human, we all have our struggles, but finding something you love and definitely getting active and moving, it's hard at first, but it definitely helps. It's brought happiness in all aspects of my life.
Yeah, I feel like everything is strengthened because of it, right? Yeah. And I was actually listening...
Relationships, everything.
I completely agree. And I was listening to... Have you ever heard of Action Bronson?
No.
Kind of a rapper, but I know him more so for his food content.
Yeah.
And really interesting dude. And he's quite a big dude, right?
Yeah.
But he's been on a journey of, like, physical transformation. He's turned into a beast. He's so strong.
Yeah.
Still a bigger fella, but he's lost heaps of weight and he's so healthy and physically fit now.
He's glowing.
Yeah,
I love the term glowing.
He's glowing. He's just massive glow up. Action Bronson. Shout out to that guy. And hearing him talk about how much it's improved his business life, his energy and his attitude towards everything. And I haven't been through an amazing physical transformation. Like, I lost 12 kilos training for my event.
Yeah.
I've put a couple cheeky ones back on, which happens.
Haven't we all?
Oh, I'm like, 3 or 4 kilos. I'm getting it back down. I'm getting it back under wraps. But it does something for you. And you just feel like everything in your life, like the people around you benefit from it as much as you do.
Yeah, trust me.
And all of your endeavours, like I can imagine at work, your energy increases. And it's just such a good feeling.
Even pushing healthy habits without realising onto people. A few people at work now meal prep.
Yeah, like that's so good.
Tradie culture is sausage roll and an energy drink for lunch. It's just, I used to do it every day.
Yeah,
it's just tomato sauce. It's the perfect combo.
And
Sugar-free energy drink.
In saying that, we are going for burgers after this tonight.
Oh, big shout out to his boy Elroy.
His boy Elroy. Actually, first episode of my podcast journey ever was with Lockie the owner.
Well, prep every day I would look at their cheeseburger.
Really?
On Instagram every day. If you go through their Instagram comments, you'll probably see me tag and breathe every single day. Post comp, came home. That was my first place I ate at.
That's so good. That's so good. Let's dive into a little bit of the food stuff, because we all love food. We all eat food. We all enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
And
food is fuel.
It is. It's amazing. And I feel like for me, a huge shift in being able to, because I'm a bit of a yo-yoer.
Yeah.
Like, I love to chuck on a kilo, drop a kilo, chuck 2 on, drop 2. It's a real yo-yo and balance effect. And ultimately, I feel like I've really improved my relationship with food because I think a little bit less about it.
Yeah.
I just make smarter decisions as opposed to like bombarding my brain with what I've got to do, like stressing about this, stressing about that. But obviously it's a different ballpark stepping on stage because things have to be tracked.
Yeah, for sure.
But what's your relationship like with food, and especially post-comp? Is it hard not to go just crazy?
It is insanely hard. So going from having... pre-prep, like a year ago, obviously not tracking, kind of living life. I then learned how to track and what's in food, what food feels good for me, what works for me, and then going into prep, obviously tracking very strict. It is crazy and does take a bit of a mental toll and is not for everyone. It's definitely no balance towards the end of prep. It's crazy, and I learned so much about myself and food in general. But then post-comp, definitely hard to kind of ease out of it. Good old reverse dieting. But
have you been pretty strict with that?
No. I'm going to be honest, no. Yeah. Probably 80-20, 70-30. We'll go 70-30.
70-30, safe bet.
Yeah, but I'm happy. I'm so happy right now. And
that's great.
My biggest thing personally for the next few months is loving myself throughout the process. Yeah. Yes, I am 3 to 4 kilos heavier than I was a month ago stepping on stage, but I'm genuinely happy. I'm strong. I'm pushing new weights in the gym, and my overall health, I feel great.
That's so good to hear. Like, for me, post Marrow, there was a bit of a binge. Yeah. Like, I went, I think it was Chico's, Macca's, and a little bit of pizza that night.
Yeah, see, afterwards, we finished the show at about 8, and we got back to the hotel, and Blake and Bree were like, what do you want? And I'd already scoped out Uber Eats. It was burgers, of course. Yeah. So we got the burgers, and I kind of sat there, and I was like, I don't really feel like anything. It was more the next day when we went to Pack Fair, and I was like, donuts. Yeah. Lollies. But you're so strict on yourself for so long, you just got to enjoy for a few days.
You've got to, and it actually does your body a whole lot of good. Yeah. Especially after that. Like, I was 76, 77 kilos the morning of the Marrow. The lightest I've ever been in fucking ages. Yeah. Since I was like just a skinny little kid. Yeah. 76 kilos for that Marrow. And post-run, just through dehydration and loss of fluid, I was 71. Yeah. And far out. It's like crazy. I was so dry. Yeah. And just getting food back into the body does so much good for you. And I ate more than I've ever eaten that weekend. But there's a photo of me getting out of an ice bath on the Monday after, and I was the leanest I've ever been. Yeah, your body loves it. It just absorbs it.
That's like the crazy thing that I learned of like coming into comp, obviously carb depletion like
Yeah.
the week before, and then pumping carbs with rice into the few days leading up to comp. You wake up comp day and your body's different to what it was going to bed.
Yeah.
Even an hour before. It's just amazing to watch, and yeah, definitely a crazy experience.
It is.
Bree's just sitting there like, more rice, and I'm like, oh, rice. I ate so much rice.
Rice is fucking good though. I'm a fan of rice.
I came home and the week after comp, I ate chicken and rice every night for dinner.
So good. You know how people say that would be boring? That's a dream.
Yeah, I love cooking and I love my fun foods, but sometimes a good chicken and rice with a bit of herb marie salt. Have you heard that before?
I haven't.
Herb marie salt. Herb marie. It's in a little green jar.
Okay.
Health food aisle. Put it on everything.
I might have to get around that.
Yeah.
I like a bit of seasoning. I use a lot of salt.
Yeah, I'm a salt person.
I lose a lot of salt because I run a lot, but
yeah.
I use a lot of salt.
Pink Himalayan makes you feel a bit healthier.
It's so, yeah, exactly. Just a little bit pink. It's like, oh, this is better for me.
Yeah.
I want to talk about your skill set in the kitchen because, Jesus Christ, you whip up some treats.
They're all really easy, but have you noticed?
You make it look easy.
No, trust me.
The thing that shocks me is like the actual macros and like the calories on them are so fucking low that I'm like, I need to get my smarts up because I'd enjoy that.
I'm that crazy bitch in Woolies scanning it on my fitness pal to like work out which is lower kind of thing, because ultimately like I want to be able to enjoy all the foods. I want everyone to enjoy all the foods, but also not that you should feel guilty, but
ultimately it's a balance.
You do feel that bit of guilt coming after you eat the food. But if you can track something, if you're a tracker, or if you're not, still eat the goods.
But I still think it's like, it's nice, isn't it? And I actually had this conversation with a mate recently, Logan, on his podcast, and we're talking about, we were both enjoying like, I think it was a Coke Zero or Pepsi Max.
Coke no sugar over Pepsi Max all the way.
All the way, I agree.
Okay, good. And it has to be out of a can.
Yes.
You can't have it in a bottle.
The cans are fucking different. When they get, when you go to a restaurant and they say, oh, would you like a can or would you like a glass with ice? And I'm like, no thanks, just the can's fine.
Yep, just the can.
Because it tastes better.
Yep.
But I'm like, I never get where people, to me, it actually tastes better than normal Coke.
Yeah.
Normal Coke is too sugary and it like, you feel like it's all in your mouth and like just not nice. And I say, if you can have something that's like no calories and still enjoy the same taste and the same experience.
Well, it's actually 1 calorie. If you
1 calorie, there you go.
I like
that's
that.
I get a few in, so it's like one of the 3 and a bit thousand that I get a day. I'm like, not bad.
Yeah, no.
But let me tell you, like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, no.
So like that's what I love about the treats that you have, because it actually builds a really healthy relationship with food. Where you don't feel like you're restricted every day. Because restriction, and like we spoke about before in life, when you feel trapped and you feel like you don't have choice.
That's when the unhealthy habits
start
to kick in.
It's when the binge happens.
And I totally agree, because we've all been there.
100%.
Yeah.
What you go to, excuse me, my voice changes so much throughout these. I realise that my voice like fluctuates. Maybe it's about to break. I don't know.
Puberty.
Late
onset puberty.
I fucking hope so. Like, imagine the growth spurt I'd have now. What's your favourite little go-to healthy treat? Like, if you're actually, let me rephrase this question. Ultimate, like, in the kitchen, kind of mid-prep, where it's not like I'm fucking on bird seed, like minimal amounts of food, but when you can actually have like a decent meal, like if you're going to make a dinner and a dessert with a healthy spin on it, what's the go-to?
So any food can be made, in quotation, healthy. Let's just say that. So I love a homemade chicken burger, Audi brioche bun.
Audi's a bit of a secret weapon, isn't it?
I love Audi. Have you had the Kenny's tub of ice cream?
I haven't.
Top off with, I reckon waffles.
Waffles.
With a scoop of the cookie dough Kenny's tub of ice cream on top. A little bit of Biscoff.
You're a Biscoff fan. I've never tried it. I've never tried it.
My jaw's on the ground right now, everyone.
I'm a real peanut butter fan.
See,
like,
I'm not a peanut butter person.
Really?
I am, but I'm not.
Have you tried Maver's dark roasted crunchy?
I don't think I have.
Shout out to Maver's. They make the best peanut butter on the planet.
Biscoff.
What is Biscoff?
So to me, I'm going to say it's every good spread. So Nutella, peanut butter, just everything put in one. But it's pretty much just caramel. A caramel spread, I'd say. Caramel biscuit.
Fuck, that could be dangerous, couldn't it?
It is. The jar's banned from my house right now.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine because I've got this thing where I literally go through like a jar of peanut butter maybe every 2 to 3 days.
Yeah, no, I can agree with Biscoff.
Like, it's very easy just to eat. Like, I'll just go in there with a spoon.
And then you go, oh, just another one.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, it's just a spoon.
Oh, we're only human.
Yeah, and like when 20 grams of a tablespoon turns
like
into like fucking 120, just
bounce
it over the tablespoon. Yeah, it's like, I love when I go, oh, just a tablespoon, that's 20 grams, that's fine. And it's like, that's like 50 grams on that tablespoon.
It's the heaped tablespoon.
Exactly.
It's like they say when you're tracking to do everything in grams, not by cups or tablespoons, because it can vary so much.
You know what I love? You've watched Jamie Oliver, right?
Yeah.
When he goes, just a bit of olive oil, and he gets the whole fucking bottle and just splashes it. And I'm like, that is not a tiny bit of olive oil. That is the whole fucking bottle,
That's
dude.
the dream part, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, just, olive oil.
100%. You can probably hear in the background, I always say, I feel like I say this every episode, in the studio, it gets quite warm here. It's a little bit of a hot box. I open the window, and every fucking time I open the window, it's like the Fast and the Furious crew drive past the studio.
Imagine doing it in here on a Saturday night, doing a podcast.
It'd be insane.
Could you imagine?
The clubs. I've done a Friday night one. It wasn't too bad because we were early.
Yeah, you'd have the hoons driving down.
Fucking Wollongong and the hoons.
We love it.
But we do. We love Wollongong.
Very unique place.
What's the next lot of goals? Like, you've created such a nice life. You've got such a great community. And, like, I'm really excited by what the future looks like for you. What are the next goals that you want to tick off? And what does this... Is this almost like chapter 2 of the journey? Like, I know with fitness sometimes one show leads to a specific other and...
Yeah. So, show-wise, July 2022 is...
Put it in the calendars.
In the calendar. Lock it in. That's where we're heading.
Where's that?
Sydney. So... Very
nice.
That's the goal.
Hometown hero.
Yeah, so aiming for that. Personal-wise, mental growth, always.
Yep.
I want to love myself through every stage. I want to grow in my personal journey. Life-wise, pack up and move to Adelaide within the next 6 months.
That's exciting.
Yeah. And learn to go with the flow.
It's hard, isn't it?
So I'm a very structured person. Always need a plan.
I feel that.
I'm a to-do list.
You know, I even spoke about this the other day, like... A relationship with flow and structure is actually quite hard when you're someone who's seen success off being very planned.
Yeah.
So I do Active Boys every Sunday morning, every Wednesday morning, every Friday morning. It's like our run crew. And I was talking to one of the boys at yesterday's run, and he was like, I got like a really good mate's birthday this Sunday, or this Saturday night. And I almost didn't want to go because I just don't want to miss out on the Sunday run.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's so true. And I'm like that too. I kind of shut off the rest of my life at times.
You get so committed to something that...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which that healthy balance and like the ability just to flow with it and be okay with missing something here and there and reintroducing it, even if it's just later that day or like... Yeah, I'm bad with that.
Trust me, anyone that knows me... I'm so bad like that, and it's something that I'm actively working on to just learn to go with it. So, for instance, moving to Adelaide, going down without a job, that's something that sounds so crazy to me, but something that I'm going to go with the flow. So,
have you been to Adelaide much?
Or every 3 or so weekends.
Okay.
Yeah, so since COVID, so Blake and I didn't see each other for 6 months last year, which was bloody hard.
Yeah.
But... we got through that, so I think we can get through anything.
That's always going to be the toughest part, right?
Yeah. So I try to get down there as much as I can, because it's still a bit hard for him to come back because he still needs to get approval of his work. So, yeah, I try to go down as much as I can. But, yeah, he was so good in prep. I'd go down and he'd have my groceries bought for me and all my food prepped, all my chicken weighed. It was
How old is Blake?
So Blake's 26.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's a fair bit older than me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because you guys are very exciting, drum roll. Getting married, which is huge, very exciting life step. That's something that not many people do in their 20s, or something that a lot of people in their 20s stress about.
Yeah.
Like, you're pretty lucky that you found someone that, like, you want to do life with, because that's tough.
And I'm blessed to find someone like Blake. I tell all my girlfriends, I said, don't settle unless you find yourself a Blake, because you all don't expect anything less. Let's
dive into that a little bit, right? Let's talk about, what do you think some healthy expectations in a relationship are? Because obviously you've got a great relationship. You're about to take the major step, the grand final almost of a relationship, getting married. And I feel like a lot of people really struggle to understand self-worth and what they really should value in relationships. We're in such a world now where there are always so many options that it's easy. There's fireworks outside too. I can't believe it.
It's only...
Yeah, it's almost like fireworks for your wedding. It's like I set that up.
Yeah, see?
I set that up.
March 2022, guys.
There you go. Let's talk about some of what you think are really important things to value in a relationship, because, like I said, in this world, it's very easy to feel like there's always a million options and the grass is always greener, because that's the culture and the scroll culture almost on social and dating apps that's been created, where I guess sometimes it's hard for people to see that the grass is not always greener on the other side. There are great things in front of you, but on the other end of the spectrum, sometimes people get comfortable and don't make the changes when they should. And
I totally agree with all of that. For me, you need to both be able to grow as individuals and grow as a couple. That's huge. Blake and I, that was our turning point. So Blake taking a different career step, and then myself with my fitness journey has both grown us as individuals and then ultimately brought us closer together.
Well, as they say, you can't help someone else, or you can't be the best for someone else when you're not the best of you.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important, probably something that's forgotten in most relationships. And, you know, as I always say, I'm no relationship guru. I'm just a lad trying to figure it out. But it's always interesting to hear from people like yourself who,
we aren't perfect. We definitely, we're a normal couple. Love a good banter sesh.
Yes.
But
well, how often does a banter sesh turn into a fight?
It just depends on the food I've eaten, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And most of the time it's my fault. I'll take full blame. But yeah, we do rarely fight.
That's great.
We understand each other on that new level, I think. I think we have a
little bit telepathic.
Yeah. It's a bit crazy, but
it's really exciting to hear. And I'm super pumped for you. I think congratulations. It's something that it should be celebrated. I feel like we forget how important it is. And I actually listened to another pod yesterday, and they spoke about how, I think it was the same guy, Ben Crow. Told you, I'm man crushing on him. And he spoke about how, as human beings, we often feel this sense or this need to achieve everything we want to by ourselves.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter who you are, how incredible you are. Ultimately, every single human being on this planet needs someone else to help them along the way.
For sure.
And I think that's the beautiful thing about a relationship, where you've got that partner in crime that you get to bounce off each other and help each other in each and every area of your lives, as well as the one that you create together.
And we've created a pretty good relationship together.
That's so good to hear.
I'm just so happy. But big shout out to Blake. He's actually on his own health and fitness journey at the moment, and
I've been seeing a few photos.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Have you noticed?
I've noticed, because I've seen there was a photo of you guys maybe in the gym together. It might have been on his stories or something. I think he'd come back home here recently. Might have been last week or something.
Yeah, he was home. Yeah, last weekend.
And I was like, he's making some changes too.
Yeah, he's on a bit of a 10-week challenge at the moment.
Nice.
And he is doing pretty bloody well. Super proud.
That's good to hear. Just in the gym, like weights, or?
Yeah, just in the gym and with his food and nutrition. Yeah,
food's it's the biggest part, isn't it?
Yeah, and just learning, fueling your body.
Yeah, good information and good food.
Yeah.
Actually, talk about good information. We had a little chat before we got into it here today on books.
Yeah. You're
a bit of a bookworm, I hear.
Yes and no, I'm getting into them.
You were grilling me about not reading before I go to bed, because I was whinging and complaining about my terrible sleeping habits.
Yeah, and we're also talking about our screen time on our phones. Which
yes.
I'm
a 7 hour a day kind of guy.
Yeah, I'm about that too.
Which is not good.
Is Spotify included in that part? Because I feel like we can make an excuse there.
I've got to be honest.
Does that count as screen time?
I do the same thing on social media that I do in the fridge, where I have a look. And there's nothing there that I need to see. I close it and then I come back for a little bit more, just hoping something's changed.
Yeah, I'm the same.
And it's such a bad habit.
Looking for the Biscoff in the cupboard that's not there.
And my neck is always so tight, and I reckon it's because I'm always looking down at my phone.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
But 10 to 15 minutes of reading before bed, I think, has changed my sleeping game, because 8 hours of sleep a night.
That's
sleep
perfect.
Like a baby.
What's been your favourite book?
Not a Life Coach by James Smith.
Okay, I've heard good things about that.
Such, I feel, a typical book that a lot of people are reading, but honestly, a game-changing book.
What is it? Very health and fitness orientated, or more so life itself?
More life, business, life. I feel like you would really like it,
because he's a massive figure in the fitness space, especially here in Australia.
He's huge. So he has another book called Not a Diet Book, I think it's called. I have not read it yet. It's next on the list after Atomic Habits. Getting a lot of good recommendations.
Yes, I've heard great things about that too.
Yeah, it's not at Kmart. Every time I go to Kmart, it's not bloody. I think I need to go to a bookstore. Amazon,
bit of online Amazon maybe.
Yeah, should get onto that.
Get around that.
Might get onto that tonight.
We've been vibing for about 46 minutes here.
Get out.
And we have been. It flies, doesn't it? Okay. Time flies when you're having fun. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that not only everyone here got to enjoy the experience of listening and viewing today's podcast and hearing your story.
We're viewing, aren't we?
We are. We're viewing. We're on YouTube. Hopefully, there's actually going to be some real changes to the setting in the studio. So stay tuned for that, YouTube.
Yeah, when are we painting?
Very soon. I think very soon. I go to Melbourne the first week of June, which will be past tense when people are listening to this podcast. But ultimately, I want to sort of little reno of the space to make it more versatile. There's some really unique content that's going to be coming out over the course of the coming months, where I just feel like a bit of versatility in the HQ would be nice.
Well, I painted some air outlets today at work, so I think I'm a qualified painter now, so I can give you a hand if you need.
Yeah, that could be really handy, because painting is one of the things that I hate the most on the planet. It is the worst job.
It's fun for 10 minutes, so I feel like if we get a good amount of people, we can all take turns.
That's a good idea. A working bee. Throw a little comment or a DM this way if you want to be a part of the Paint the Studio working bee. But it's, really exciting times, and I want to make sure that people come and follow your journey. So as I used to do, I'd get you to read out all of your social links, but ultimately that's really hard to remember, and it gets you guys on the go trying to write down Emma's Insta bio, not a bio, her tag I should say. So I'm just going to drop that all in the description so you can get around her in the little community she's created. One trend of the podcast and of my life and my Instagram stories is lately, as I leave and I close off conversation, whether that be here at the cafe at Lee and Me or on the podcast, I asked everyone for a few words of wisdom. So could you leave us with some words of wisdom?
On the spot.
Yeah, I always put you on the spot. Something that you wish more people in their 20s knew. Something that you've learnt and understood a whole lot better over the course of the last year.
Put yourself first.
Simple but super powerful and effective, and I fucking second that. Definitely one of the goals for me this year.
Everything happens for a reason.
I think it's so important.
Cliche, but so right.
It is, and for all the challenges that I didn't feel like should have been happening to me this year, the reasons are now becoming very clear and present, and I've been on that journey too, being a little bit more selfish to be eventually more selfless. And as we said, you've really got to look after you before you can look after anyone else. So make yourself that number one priority. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of A Lot to Talk About. I'm here with a wonderful Emma Reynolds, and we really appreciate you jumping on board.
Thanks, guys. Thanks
Take
for
it
having
easy.
Me.
We're going to go have some burgers.
Oh,
We're out.
cheeseburger.